All right, Alvaro. Yeah, maybe you want to introduce yourself and get things rolling.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Alvaro. Some of you, most of you, half of you maybe already know me. I'm a new smart engineering, a smart contract engineer that joined the team 2 months ago, actually now. And we are going to have a little overview on the fungible token switchboard smart contract, which is the contract I have been developing since I joined the team. Okay. Next slide, please. Yeah. So what is this contract for? Basically, the fungible token switchboard allows any user to receive any payment using any kind of fungible token without specifying it. Using just a single resource, they will be able to receive payments in any of the fungible tokens that defined on the flow blockchain. Okay, next slide, please. And why do we need it? There might be some scenarios where users need to receive a payment, but they are not sure on which fungible token they are going to receive the payment. The most common user scenario for this is using royalties on NFTs. When you set up your royalty, you have to add a fungible token receiver to your royalty. Imagine that you are creating your royalties with flow token. If the purchase of the NFT gets made in flow USD, for instance, you will skip your cut. So if you are using, instead of a regular fungible token receiver, the switchboard receiver, you will be able to receive your payment in any of the fungible tokens you want to specify, but just using one resource, one receiving path. Okay, next slide, please. Now we are going to see how does it works. The contract creates a resource called switchboard that conforms to the fungible token receiver interface. That means that it has to implement the function deposit, the regular function deposit that any other receiver implements. The resource stores a dictionary of capabilities pointing to the different fungible token vaults that are already present on your account, and it indexes the capabilities by the type of the vault that is being retrieved from the capability. So when the deposit method is called, it looks at that dictionary for the proper capability to route the funds. Okay. The contract also defines the standard, the generic fungible token receiver path. Okay, that can be found on that variable. That is also defined on the metadata views contract for using it when you are handling royalties. Okay, next slide, please. We are going to talk now about some improvements that we made to the contract thanks to the public PR discussion. Next slide. First method we made thanks to the discussion was the safe deposit. This is a method that allows you to make a deposit into any account, but avoiding any panic. That means if the vault cannot be found on the switchboard, or maybe the actual, I mean, first, if the capability cannot be found on the switchboard, or the vault which the capability is pointing to has been deleted from the account, for instance, this function won't panic. Okay, instead, it will just return the funds that has not been deposited. But this allows us to make several deposits on maybe a lot of people waiting to get their cut on an NFT. Okay, but if some of these payments does not work, the whole transaction won't be aborted. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Next slide, please. We also came up with another panic-free method for creating, adding several vaults to the switchboard, just in one step, the add new vaults by paths method. This method takes an array of public paths, okay, and also the address where we want to look for capabilities on that path, okay. This function also won't panic if some of the vaults, the capabilities are wrong, they are not pointing to a existing vault, okay, and just allows us to create to set up our switchboard instead of making several transactions for every vault using just one transaction. Okay, next slide, please. And we have prepared a little exercise on the playground in case you want to just try the code and see how it works. Okay, next slide. I can paste the link here in the chat to the.
Oh, okay. You want me to keep the presentation?
I don't care. I mean, I can. Yeah, I can take the presentation. I wanted to, if everyone is okay with that, I wanted to give them like a couple of minutes to read and try to.
Yeah. Okay.
Try to make it by themselves. Maybe I can share my screen and start doing it. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Let's do
so
a little.
We can like have it like half guide, letting people.
By the way, does anyone have any questions so far?
Yeah, sorry. Eric, go ahead.
Eric. No, please.
Oh, I was just going to say Eric had his question first.
Oh.
Okay, I'll ask. Yeah, so this contract implementation allows us to add to extend the switchboard without upgrading the contract.
The switchboard is a new contract. It's a new independent contract. It's not
like if I want to, sorry, I'm not talking about the specific exercise, just the contract implementation in general.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't read too much into the contract, apologies. But so I guess the idea is to allow for the switchboard resource owner to add capabilities without extending the contract itself.
Not really the contract. They will be storing those capabilities in their switchboard. I mean, the contract allows everyone to create a switchboard resource that will be stored in their account, and they can add the capabilities to their own switchboard. So everyone can manage which fungible tokens want to receive.
So if they want to add a new type of fungible token to be allowed into the switchboard, they can do it without extending the contract itself.
Yeah, exactly. It's just you will see it in the exercise. It's just calling a function and say add new vault to switchboard, add new vault, and you got that method on your resource, and now your switchboard is linked to your actual vault.
Cool.
I think Bastian or Robert.
Yeah, this is super cool. Thank you for creating it. Is there any kind of sort of I guess it's not a problem because it's a fungible token, but there's no problem with like getting spammed. There was always sort of this concern with airdrops where you just open up your account and then someone just stores random values in it. You kind of have to already have initialized your account for a specific fungible token to be received, right? Like you sort of have to go into the switchboard and set up like I want to now receive this new one. Is the main sort of for me the main question and is what's the main difference from sort of the traditional way, right? Like traditionally you would like accept a new fungible token by creating like what you would like a capability like you would for the flow token. You would like link it up and say like, you know, store a vault in your account. Is the switchboard mostly for sort of transferring it to other accounts, sort of proxying the data, or what's the main difference?
It could,
case, right?
It could be used also for that, but I believe the most easy way to understand how this will be used is with royalties. When you create a royalty into your NFT, it stores only one capability. Okay, only one capability in one path. So imagine I made the NFT and I don't know, me with some 3 friends made some NFT together, and we are having a royalty on it, and we have to set a receiver for that. Okay, right? I mean, we have to, I don't know, a flow token receiver. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and the NFT gets sold. It goes to another market, another. You are theoretically receiving royalties for each of the sales, but suddenly the NFT gets sold using Flow USD, not Flow tokens. You won't receive your royalties because you have your receiver on the royalties will be only receiving Flow tokens, not not USD tokens.
Right. Cool.
That's-
Yeah, that makes sense. It's sort of like
Okay.
a funnel for getting anything that's the main use case, and in particular, like the royalties have this need. Yeah. Thanks.
Also, we thought about what you said before about allowing anyone to deposit any fungible token into your account, but that was way too more complicated because someone has to pay for the transaction that will create the vault into your account, and also we are risking ourselves to a kind of DDoS attack. I mean that someone could start like spamming your account, filling the storage, so that's not really easy to manage. In a first stage, we agreed to maybe just this way, that you can only receive the token that you set the switchboard to receive, but maybe we'll think about a version, I mean, a next version where anyone can just, like you said, like in airdropping, deposit any fungible token into your switchboard.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks.
Jim?
Yeah, this might be a bit off topic, but could you see something like this pattern here being used for NFTs? Like, is there a use case for that, and would this pattern potentially work for that? I get that the fungible tokens, maybe.
So I
More
was
suited
thinking
to this, but-
exactly just that. I don't think this particular approach works, but you might have to extend the contract itself to allow for deposits of basically it would expose an interface where you could give it like any resource, and the contract itself would need to be extended to kind of map between the any resource to the actual NFT that you want to deposit.
But you mean like for having let's say a general resource collection?
Yeah, like for
like
airdrops, like a lot of partners want to do airdrops, but it's like, okay, well, if the user doesn't have the collection resource initialized, you can't, or it's, they build a different mechanism, but I guess that doesn't really, this pattern doesn't quite solve that, because you still need to add the, okay.
Exactly, you will still need to add. Go, Albert. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, we talked about that a little bit. And the idea there is, if I want to give somebody an NFT and they don't have their account initialized for it, I would store it in my account and give them and only them the capability to take it from me. And therefore there's no spam anymore. I'm spamming myself by escrowing that NFT.
And only their address can withdraw it or something.
Yeah, you would basically, it's sort of like an offer where it's free, right? Yeah, so that user.
Cool.
But so just really quick, just from a product point of view, so I have now this catch-all set of vaults to make sure that all of my users could get paid eventually. I then, as a user, have to be notified that this has happened, and then I guess you're probably going to run through that in your example here, but just from a product side, what is the user experience like that you're envisioning based on what you built here?
Right now, each user will need to create their own. I mean, as long as they are storing their own switchboard, they will need to create specify which fungible tokens want to receive by themselves. You are talking something like maybe some marketplace create the links for the users. I mean,
I'm just saying I was supposed to get paid. I didn't get paid. What is the
This doesn't introduce any new well, the safe deposit perhaps, if that's what you're talking about. But for a proper route where the token actually gets deposited, you would still, like, if you are already monitoring the vault for a deposit event, then that would still be emitted, right? This is just basically forwarding.
mm-hmm.
Right, but
Yes,
yeah, I do see a concern with the unsafe one. Well, the safe deposit one, where I don't receive a royalty because someone used a safe deposit there, and then, like, how do I know this happened?
How do you know that you have received a deposit?
Like, if someone is using the safe deposit method to pay out royalties, right?
Uh-huh.
And then I didn't get paid because I didn't have the fungible token receiver set up. Like, is this like an opt-in thing where when I do the listing or do the initialization process, like, I opt into this, like, safe deposit approach? Or do I know that like I missed out on a royalty payout?
You will know. I mean, we are trusting here, I believe, because I'm not absolutely into the storefront contract. We are hoping that the people who use the NFT storefront contract tries to honor the payment of royalties, but you have no warranty that you are getting paid just by setting up your royalty. I mean, you can set your royalty with the switchboard, setting up the flow vault, the USD vault, the block token vault, but finally the payment gets done in, I don't know which, in flow moon tokens, whatever. You won't get paid. This is not solving that.
So Alvaro, I created an NFT. I set myself up as a royalty recipient. Months later, somebody lists my NFT on Rarible for some fungible token I've never heard of. I'm not a Rarible user. How does word get back to me that I have these unclaimed tokens?
That's a good idea. There's no way, but yeah.
So that's ultimately the problem we need to solve here for this to really have legs. Because if I, as a user, am not aware and there's no mechanism to, as I understand it now, there's no way to randomly ping anybody, right? Dapper has, they can ping users, but everybody else doesn't have that option. So I'm just trying to understand in practice how this actually solves the problem. You're stopping the transaction from failing, and you're capturing those funds, and you're sort of holding them in trust, escrowing them, so to speak, but without a way of letting the original royalty recipient know, it's kind of all for nothing, because now I just have money siloed off. And I think ultimately that's the problem that needs to be solved, unless I'm missing some other use case.
I assume the safe deposit path is meant mostly for airdrops instead of royalties payout. Like, I want to no.
Not really. The thing is that you are getting back your funds. I mean, the safe deposit returns the funds that has not been deposited, so that funds go to depends on how you use the function. It returns to the payer. It gets it goes to other cut receivers. It's up to you how to manage it. It just assures that you have a deposit function that won't panic if it fails, and of course the funds doesn't get lost. Yeah, the thing is, Albert, I understand what you are saying, that this works in a really rudimentary way, that you have to, in advance, think which fungible tokens you might receive. So yeah, if 3 years later a new fungible token comes up and it gets really popular on a marketplace, you are missing that cut. Yeah. That's a really good point. Bastian?
Yeah, I think regarding that, like, does it have to be on chain? Like, is that like a big problem? If you use adapt, there's like a big off chain component. It's like sort of always two parts. If that notification, I don't know, like a push notification tells you, hey, you can claim this NFT, we sort of offer you, and that's not, that offer sort of information isn't on chain. It's not like sort of a deal breaker, I would say. But I mean, I can see how it is like useful to have it on chain, but in practice, like it's for the user, the experience might just be the same at the end of the day.
It's a deal breaker here because if we're specifically trying to address royalties, they're not gonna. This is an ecosystem-wide thing. It's not a DApp thing. So many NFTs creators don't have their own marketplaces, so they do a drop, and then they set their NFTs free throughout the ecosystem, and they have no idea what marketplaces will end up transacting them. And unless the marketplaces are aware of my ability to receive a given fungible token, which they're probably not, then it sets up a situation for a royalty to be earned but be unpayable. And I think that is kind of a big issue here that we need to think through. But honestly, I hate that to derail this conversation. Alvaro's done a lot of amazing work on the smart contract, and I feel like
No, don't worry. I mean, we have time. I mean, we have like 20 more minutes. That's and that's a really good idea and something we can work with. The thing is, I don't know if we could address that without having the notifications. I know we are working on the blockchain from those notifications, because well, the other way of solving that will be allowing anyone to create a vault into your account, some sort of that. Yeah. So we will get into the terrain of someone paying the transaction fees for you. That's not something. Yeah. No. Okay, great. Any other questions? You want to try it a little? You want, Jerome? If you want, I can. Oh, that's my screen.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, we can
Okay.
continue.
Okay. So here, yeah, you will find here the instructions. So if you want to go alone, it's pretty easy. You just have to deploy your contracts. I don't know how the login seems to be working fine. It's great. Okay, and the things I let you to complete is just to write the transaction on how the paths are up to a switchboard, okay? And just to write the usual transfer transaction of fungible tokens, just to check that you can deposit any of the two example tokens that are over there using the same path, borrowing the same object from the same path. Okay. First of all, I don't know if you are curious about that. I mean, if you want to have like 3 minutes to try to do it by your own, if you prefer to do this after the meeting or check it in your own time, we are not sure about how the format, this should be structured. So any feedback is extremely appreciated on that. Next thing I will do is creating the vault into my account for any of the tokens I want to being able to receive. I'm pretending I'm account 5, okay? So I will just set up my example token account, my illustrative token account. Finally, I'm creating the switchboard on my account. creating the resource and creating the link using the generic receiver path, okay? The one which is also specified on the metadata views. And after that, we will need to add the vaults to the path. I have led the exercise thinking of the adding it using the paths, I believe. You can find the solution here, okay, if you want. We will need to import all the contracts, of course, okay. We need to define some constant with for paths, okay, the example token vault path and the other token path, an array for passing them to the switchboard, and a reference to the switchboard. We just define the path taking the values from the contracts, okay, they are defined in the init function. It's like something we should be most of the time doing and not hard coding the paths in the transactions, okay. We just push them into the array that once we have borrowed the reference to the switchboard, we will call the add new vaults by path and pass that array of paths and the address where the actual vaults are stored. This actually will allow for someone to create a switchboard and redirect the deposit to some other guy account, let's say. Okay. Sorry. Renaming. Switchboard is usually related to handling connection between things.
Yeah, we can figure it
we
out. We can take this offline. It's a good point. We should come up with
I have to
a
look for that word because that was a word I have never used on English, and I like figure out that is this kind of thing that we use for phone calls, right? I mean, it's the most similar explanation I have on. That's right. Thank you, because I was not sure of the word I was using a lot. Yeah. So signing this transaction here, we want to link our own vaults, the vaults that are on account 5. So we sign the transaction with account 5, which is the one that is holding the switchboard resource, and we specify the address 5 because we want to link our switchboard to our vaults. Okay, that should be fine. And now we will need to mint some tokens. The admin of the example token is 3. So we will mint some tokens into her account for being able to trespass them. Okay, and finally, you could also, of course, mint some of the other tokens if you want to play a role. And finally, we'll need to write the transaction for sending those tokens. First, we'll need to get a constant with the vault of the funds we are sending. Okay, let's say we are sending from the account 3 to the account 5 10 example tokens, and we have to specify here the path where the receiver is stored, which, if I do not recall wrong, it's generic. I don't have the capital. Generic. Something like this. We can check it here in the fungible tokens as well. Yeah, that's fine. send tokens to account 5 from account 3. Okay. So we get a reference to the signer to the payer, both, okay? And we withdraw some tokens from it. We get a reference to the, sorry, not a reference, actually the account where we are going to deposit the tokens. And from that account, we borrow a reference using the capability to the switchboard, okay? And finally, we just use the normal deposit function to send them some tokens. It seems that it works. So the example token balance in account 5 should be 10 or 5 tokens. Yeah, exactly. 10 tokens, and just changing a little the transaction and saying that we want to actually deposit illustrative tokens instead of example tokens. Yeah, the rest of the transaction will be the same signs, since we can use the same receiver. We have to sign it with the guy who has some illustrative tokens. We want to give them to the same account. Yeah, Jim?
Why do we have to specify the receiver path here? Like if we know we're going to the switchboard, can it just be
Yeah,
in the
actually,
transaction?
because we thought it will be better to have like a more generic transaction, and I just use the same transaction that I have in the repo. That's
Okay, so you could go right to the specific vault or the switchboard.
Let's say
That's gonna be a
with
quick
this kind of transaction, you could deposit to a regular vault or use the fungible or the switchboard. Doesn't matter. You could use any resource that is implementing the fungible token receiver interface.
Okay. Yeah, I think I got confused by the panic message because that's
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't change that. Could not borrow receiver reference. Like that will be.
yeah.
more
Thank you.
exact. Yeah. So yeah, the balance of illustrative tokens should be I guess the transaction. Yeah, the transaction is a little bit. Sometimes if you show that it like hangs, it stays loading, you have sometimes to refresh the playground site. Yeah, that's it.
Cool
So,
stuff.
quick question, and forgive me if I missed this, but do you emit an event so that the recipient, the intended recipient of a given fungible token, could their address is emitted as part of the event?
Good question. Let's check it.
The idea would be that
Recipient-
somebody paying attention to the events could notify me and say, "Hey, Albert, someone tried to pay you."
No, if I will only emit an event if the deposit went okay, if I'm not wrong. Here, and I'm missing here an event. Seems. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not emitting any event in the regular deposit function. So we are not emitting. That's something we have to change. Thank you, Albert. We are not emitting any event yet. So you said that it will be nice to have an event if someone try to deposit to your account, but you then have the proper vault set up. That's also quite a good idea. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you.
Sure. I mean, I would have another conversation with you just from a product standpoint.
Yeah.
With this. I think there might be some opportunities to use this. Just need to think about use cases a bit more.
Yeah, I mean,
amazing.
I believe
very, very helpful.
I believe we made it like from a really theoretical point of view, not having a product view in mind at all. Just like we want to allow people to receive multiple fungible tokens, but using just one entry point. That's also all the premise on that.
Cool. Any other questions? Love the feedback, everybody. That's been really good. That's exactly why we did this, because we are aware of maybe being too much in the bubble, and we need that product input, and we need those other use cases. And hearing all of this is really solid stuff to be hearing. We haven't committed to these ideas fully, and we can always make changes. So yeah, I'm looking forward to hear what comes back from you, Albert. And we'll start thinking about that feedback, see what we can incorporate to address that concern of like marketplaces. How do we make sure that that link is there for marketplaces if this is going to get used, and then if you're other product / directional things, then definitely interested in that. Cool. Well, if that's it, then we can wrap up a little early.
Albert, if you want to hang out, if anyone wants to hang out, sort of have a product conversation about this contract, I think I have some thoughts actually right now that might be interesting.
Let's do it.
Sure, I will love it.
So in the real world, when you have like an insurance account, for example, and you close it early and there's a surplus, there's unclaimed money floating around for people. There's actually a website that a friend of mine became an expert at using, and he would ping me and be like, "Hey, Albert, you have $500 you could go claim or whatnot." It's sort of the same thing here. Is you create these honeypots for people, and thinking out loud, for marketplaces, this is probably going to be where we're going to really encounter this. Is someone's listed something for sale, and the royalty recipient is not set up to get paid. So what do we do? You have all the mechanics in place. And I think marketplaces leveraging this contract and the notion of the switchboard, what they could do is build a UI where I give them my address and they'll tell me if I have any unclaimed funds. And that can just kind of be a thing that we encourage marketplaces to implement. I'm just thinking out loud here for the first time about this. But I think that might be an approach. Yeah, go ahead, Albert.
The thing is, I believe how the storefront contract is made, if a royalty payment cannot be done, that payment goes to the seller. It does not get stored or get lost or comes back to the buyer, but I believe it goes, instead, it's just like it computes like I have to make these cuts, okay, but if some of these cuts are not working, I'm not making it, so the buyer is receiving.
Yeah, well, that's the current setup of the storefront, but it could be changed to put it into like a holding pattern, right? And then you could create the claim it back if it's not the right token. I mean, we could make a change to support this version of the solution that Albert's speaking to, because then all you need is like a way of notifying people that, hey, you have these tokens sitting here waiting for you to create a receiver for it, or to claim it. And then you could provide a contract that gives you a means to claim that as well when you get notified of that by the market. So yeah, it could be a nice way to tie things together. And because I always felt like that sending it to the seller was a little bit like imperfect and not the ideal scenario that we really want to create, because who can really trust the seller to forward that to the bar, to the right? The seller's never going to be
No, it's-
incentivized to give it to a marketplace. They're a seller, so it's not ideal for sure. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, definitely could be an update to the storefront contract if we can make it work in a better way.
Yeah, it'd be nice if Zatyam was here. Maybe we could have a conversation with him and tie this contract in. But yeah, I mean, the idea, I mean, first of all, Alvaro, yeah, it's our contract. So we can, and V2 hasn't been rolled out yet. I hate to kick the can down the road even more, but it might be worthwhile to,
Yeah, it would be worth. Yeah.
to address this. But yeah, I'm thinking that every marketplace could have their own switchboard, and then we just, we don't try and solve the problem for the whole ecosystem. We just do it at the marketplace level and just give people a chance to get unclaimed funds.
So you are thinking about something that will store temporarily the funds under the control of the marketplace, and the marketplace will have to notify the. Okay, yeah.
Or I mean, they won't have the ability to notify me because I'm not their user. Presumably, that's the use case we're trying to address here. Is all you have is a flow address for me, and now you have funds that are potentially mine. You have no ability to reach out to ping me and say, Albert, come get your money. But if I should happen upon your marketplace, or maybe we as a community say, hey, this is a thing now. If you are anticipating royalties, go check at these marketplaces. And every once in a while, maybe you could do that.
Isn't that a problem more for the airdrop or the MIT shared lost and found contract? Like, isn't it more kind of closer to that side of the solution? Like that would apply to both airdropping fungible tokens and non-fungible tokens, right?
Yeah,
like you don't have the ability to receive it just yet, but we still want to give it to you. So we give you a way to claim this in a way. This will apply to both fungible and
yeah. The problem with the cadence here is that you can't reach out to any users, right? So that's the problem I was trying to address by having a marketplace, have a place or some feature dedicated to looking up whether or not I have unclaimed, to your point, non-fungible or fungible tokens. In this case, we're really just talking about fungible tokens. But yeah, I think what you're saying is relevant.
Yeah, and to add to that, in the lost and found context, I feel like it might make more sense for a wallet to support it rather than a marketplace to tell someone if they have missing funds.
Yeah, totally. Dapper could be like monitoring for events on that contract, right? And if one of our users who are eligible, will either notify them or just claim on behalf of them as we're custodian.
Didn't Lilico just implement something like that in the last demo they shared? Where they have an inbox.
I'm not sure, but if we can see the contract one day, we can let you know and see what similarities there may be and what we can learn from that.
Let me share the recording with you, Jerome. I don't know what the status is, but I saw a recording in which they, as the wallet provider, have an inbox and you can check out like unclaimed things, claim them.
It's part of FlowNS contract. So we can take a look at that. You can see how they implement it through that.
The one I linked from Float.
Okay, cool.
Sorry. The one I linked from
Yeah.
Floaty, it does it in a unique way where you have to cover the storage cost as well, which makes it so even if the account is full in storage, you can still send to them, which I think most of the other receivers are lacking at the moment.
What if, Albert,
I'm sorry. I need to jump. I'm dealing with a family emergency.
Okay, perfect.
Apologize.
We'll talk about
We'll
this
sync up
another
another
day. Yeah,
day.
we are have run.
Thanks a
Cool,
lot, Ryan.
cool. Awesome. Thanks, everybody. That was great. Thanks for attending and all the feedback. Cheers.
Thanks all.
Thank
Take care.
you. Bye
you.
bye.
Hey,